The silent signal. The message came on an ordinary Tuesday morning, buried among the countless signals that Earth's deep space arrays constantly monitored. Most were the usual background noise of the cosmos, radio waves from distant stars, electromagnetic echoes of ancient events. But this one was different. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her monitor in the Planetary Defense Communications Center, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. The signal pattern didn't match anything in their extensive databases. It was structured, deliberate, and most importantly, it was repeating. "Director Wallace, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The center's director approached, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. "What have you found?" Wallace asked, leaning over her shoulder to study the waveform display. "It's artificial, sir. Definitely not natural phenomenon. The pattern repeats every 47 seconds with exact precision. And," she paused, pulling up another screen, "it's getting stronger." Wallace's expression hardened. After decades of scanning the stars, humanity had finally received an unambiguous signal from an alien civilization. But this wasn't the friendly greeting they had hoped for. The message carried an unmistakable urgency, its intensity growing with each repetition. Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation gathered in the underground chamber beneath Geneva, their faces grave as they reviewed the preliminary analysis. Admiral James Rodriguez, commander of Earth's nascent space fleet, stood at the podium. "The signal originates from the Carina Nebula, approximately 7,500 light-years from Earth. Our quantum computers have begun decoding the mathematical portions of the message. It's a distress call." Murmurs filled the chamber. Councillor Zhang from the Asian Coalition raised her hand. "A distress call? From whom? And why would they contact us? We've barely ventured beyond our solar system." Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the decoded portions of the signal. The message contains astronomical coordinates and what appears to be a countdown. Whatever crisis they're facing, it's imminent. As for why us? He paused, meeting the eyes of each council member. "We're not the only recipients. This is a broadcast sent to multiple star systems, but we're the closest civilization capable of mounting a response." "Capable?" Councillor Brooks scoffed. "Our fleet consists of 12 ships. Admiral, 12. And you're suggesting we send them on a rescue mission to save an unknown alien species." 14 ships, Rodriguez corrected. The Hyperion and Orion completed their trials last week. And yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some argued for caution, others for immediate action. The risk of depleting Earth's defenses weighed heavily against the potential benefits of aiding an advanced civilization. Dr. Chen, invited to present her findings, stepped forward. "There's something else you need to know," she said, her voice cutting through the arguments. "The signal contains fragments of sensor data. Whatever threatens them, it's not natural. We're detecting weapons signatures unlike anything we've ever seen." She pulled up new images, showing energy readings that defied current understanding of physics. "If this force isn't stopped there, it will keep expanding. Eventually, it will reach us. The question isn't whether we should respond, it's whether we can afford not to." Admiral Rodriguez nodded grimly. "We've spent the last decade preparing our fleet, training our crews, developing technologies we hoped we'd never need to use. Maybe this is why. Maybe this is our chance to prove humanity's worth to the galactic community." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but not like this. Not as a desperate plea for help from the stars. Council President Capri stood, her decision visible in her bearing before she spoke. "We cannot ignore this call, not just for the sake of those who sent it, but for our own future. Admiral Rodriguez, you have authorization to mobilize the fleet. Choose your best crews. You depart as soon as the ships are ready." As the council session adjourned, Dr. Chen approached Rodriguez. Admiral, I request permission to join the mission. I studied their language patterns in the signal. You'll need someone who can communicate with them. Rodriguez studied her for a moment before nodding. Granted. Report to the Hyperion at 600 tomorrow. And Dr. Chen, pack light. Where we're going, we might not be coming back. Within days, Earth's 14 most advanced warships assembled in high orbit. They represented the pinnacle of human military technology. Fusion drives, quantum-encrypted communications, and weapon systems that could reduce a small moon to rubble. As the crews made their final preparations, Dr. Chen stood at the Hyperion's observation deck, watching Earth slowly rotate below. The signal continued its relentless broadcast, growing stronger with each passing hour. Whatever waited for them in the depths of space, humanity was about to face it head-on. The fate of not one, but potentially two civilizations now rested on their success. As the fleet prepared for its first faster-than-light jump, Chen couldn't help but wonder. Had humanity finally found its moment to shine among the stars, or were they about to discover exactly why the cosmos had seemed so eerily silent all these years? Fleet of Hope. The 14 ships of humanity's rescue fleet hung in formation against the star-studded backdrop of space. The Hyperion led the group, its sleek hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. In its command center, Admiral Rodriguez stood before his crew, his expression solemn but determined. Today we attempt our first synchronized faster-than-light jump, he announced, his voice carrying across the bridge. If successful, it will be the longest distance ever traveled by human vessels. If we fail, he let the words hang in the air. Everyone knew the risks. Dr. Chen sat at her station, monitoring the alien signals patterns. Over the past week, she had begun to understand more of its complex mathematical structure. Admiral, she called out, the signal's strength is increasing exponentially. Whatever's happening out there, it's escalating. Rodriguez nodded grimly. All ships, prepare for jump sequence. Synchronize quantum drives on my mark. The bridge hummed with energy as the massive engines powered up. Years of theoretical research were about to be put to the ultimate test. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Reality twisted. The stars blurred into streaks of light as 14 ships simultaneously tore holes in the fabric of space-time. The sensation was unlike anything the crews had experienced in training. It felt as if the universe itself was being stretched around them. When they emerged, the familiar constellations had been replaced by an alien sky. The jump had worked, carrying them nearly 1,000 light-years in an instant, but they were far from their destination. Status report, Rodriguez commanded, fighting down a wave of nausea from the jump. All ships present and accounted for, his XO reported. Minor systems fluctuations, but nothing critical. The fleet is ready for the next jump, sir. Before Rodriguez could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts, the sensor officer shouted, emerging from behind the gas giant at bearing 047. The view screens lit up with images that made everyone's blood run cold. 3 massive vessels had appeared, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered or imagined. They're not responding to any communication attempts, Dr. Chen reported, her fingers flying over her console. But these energy signatures, they matched the weapon profiles from the distress signal. Rodriguez's decision was immediate. Battle stations. Defensive formation Delta. Do not fire unless fired upon. Let's show them we're civilized, even if they're not. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, forming a 3-dimensional defensive screen around the Hyperion. They had trained for this, but training couldn't prepare them for the alien majesty and terror of their adversaries. The enemy ships made the first move. Without warning, lances of purple energy erupted from their hulls, slicing through space toward the human fleet. But Rodriguez had anticipated this. Initiate quantum scatter, he ordered. The human ships activated their newest defense system, briefly shifting partially out of phase with normal space. The enemy beams passed through the spaces where the ships had been milliseconds before. Return fire. Target their weapon emplacements only. The human fleet responded with a coordinated barrage of plasma torpedoes and graviton beams. Most splashed harmlessly against the enemy's shields, but a few found their mark. One of the massive ships shuddered as its primary weapon array exploded. "Sir," Dr. Chen's voice cut through the chaos of battle. "I'm detecting new signals. Dozens of them. More ships coming in." The space around them lit up with quantum distortions as new vessels appeared. But these were different, smaller, more numerous, and broadcasting on frequencies similar to the original distress signal. "They're not with the attackers," Chen reported excitedly. "Their energy signatures matched the civilization that sent the distress call. They're survivors." The new arrivals joined the battle without hesitation. Their weapons were more advanced than humanity's, but they fought with less coordination, less strategy. They were clearly exhausted, perhaps the remnants of a once greater fleet. Rodriguez seized the opportunity. "All ships, coordinate fire with our new allies. Focus on the lead enemy vessel. Show them what humanity can do." The combined fleet moved as one, human tactical innovation merging with alien technological superiority. The enemy ships, caught between two forces, began to retreat. Their dark hulls disappeared into quantum space, leaving behind only debris and questions. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the Allied ships maintained a defensive position. Dr. Chen worked frantically to establish communication with their unexpected allies. Finally, her console lit up with a response. Mathematical patterns at first, then crude visual symbols, and finally, words translated through her algorithms. "They say they're called the Araxians," she reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They've been fighting these entities for months, losing ground across dozens of star systems. They never expected." She paused, double-checking her translation. "They never expected the young species they detected would come to their aid, let alone fight with such effectiveness." Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them this is just the beginning. We didn't come all this way to win one skirmish. We came to help them take back their homes." As the human and Araxian ships began emergency repairs, more refugee vessels emerged from hiding. They had found hope in humanity's arrival, in the sight of a younger species willing to stand against an ancient evil. But this was just the first battle. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would need every ounce of courage, innovation, and determination to face what was coming. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what this unlikely alliance would achieve. The siege. The combined fleet of human and Araxian ships emerged from quantum space into a scene of devastation. Helios, the Araxian homeworld, hung in space like a jewel wrapped in chains of darkness. Massive enemy vessels surrounded the planet, their dark hulls forming a web of destruction. "By all that's holy," Dr. Chen whispered, staring at her sensor readings. "The enemy fleet. It's at least 30 ships strong. And those energy readings." Admiral Rodriguez studied the tactical display, his mind racing through scenarios. The Araxian ships had proven powerful but fragile, their advanced technology unable to withstand prolonged combat. The human fleet, though more durable, was drastically outnumbered. "Signal from the Araxian flagship," Chen reported. "Their planetary shields are failing. If we don't break through soon, they'll lose their last defensive line." Rodriguez squared his shoulders. "Then we don't have a choice. All ships, prepare for Operation Thunderbolt." It was a desperate plan, one they'd developed during the journey to Helios. The human fleet would use its quantum scatter technology not to dodge attacks, but to appear to be in multiple places at once. A dangerous gambit that would strain their ship's systems to the breaking point. "Sir," his XO warned, "if we maintain quantum scatter for that long, we'd risk permanent damage to the drive cores." "Better damaged ships than a dead civilization," Rodriguez replied. "Execute the operation, and signal the Araxians. We need every ship they can spare for this to work." The space around Helios erupted into chaos as the human fleet initiated their plan. Each vessel split into multiple quantum echoes, appearing to multiply into a force 3 times its size. The enemy ships responded with a barrage of energy weapons, their dark hulls pulsing with power. But this time, humanity was ready. The quantum echoes absorbed and dispersed the enemy fire, while the real ships slipped through gaps in their formation. It was like a deadly dance, one where a single misstep meant destruction. Dr. Chen worked frantically at her station, coordinating with the Araxian ships. Their allies had quickly grasped the human strategy and were adapting their own tactics to complement it. Where human ships drew fire with quantum duplicates, Araxian vessels struck with precise, devastating attacks. The enemy's adapting, Chen called out as new readings flooded her screen. They're modifying their weapons to track our real signatures through the quantum scatter. Rodriguez gritted his teeth. They'd known this trick wouldn't work forever, but they'd hoped for more time. All ships, execute attack pattern Sierra. Target their command and control nodes. The human fleet reformed into tight clusters, each group supporting the others with overlapping fields of fire. They'd lost the element of surprise, but they'd also drawn the enemy into a closer engagement where their superior maneuverability could make the difference. Suddenly, Shen's console lit up with urgent signals. Admiral, the Araxians, they're opening their planetary defense grid. They're letting us access their weapon systems. It was unprecedented. The Araxians were trusting their most powerful weapons to a species they'd met barely weeks ago. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. Link our targeting systems to their defense grid. Coordinate all fire on my mark. He watched as the tactical display updated, showing the immense power now at their disposal. Fire. The space around Helios lit up like a newborn sun. The combined firepower of 2 civilizations struck the enemy fleet simultaneously. Human tactical precision merged with Araxian technological might, creating a devastating synergy. Enemy ships began to fall, their dark hulls breaking apart under the onslaught. But they fought back with terrible fury. The human destroyer Intrepid vanished in a ball of quantum fire. 3 Araxian cruisers fell to concentrated enemy fire. Their formation is breaking, Chen reported, her voice rising with hope. They're falling back to regroup. But Rodriguez saw something else in the tactical display. The enemy wasn't retreating. They were concentrating their forces for one massive strike. All ships, brace for impact. Divert all power to forward shields. The enemy fleet moved as one, their weapons combining into a single devastating beam that cut through space like the wrath of an angry god. It struck the planetary shields of Helios with overwhelming force. The shields held for 3 seconds. 4, 5. Then they shattered. No, Chen cried as her instruments overloaded. The Araxian defense grid went dark, its power drained by the massive attack. But in that moment of apparent defeat, humanity revealed its final card. The Hyperion's quantum drive spun up to maximum power, not for movement, but for something else entirely. Now we show them why you don't back humanity into a corner, Rodriguez said quietly. Execute Protocol Omega. The Hyperion's quantum field expanded, encompassing nearby space in a bubble of altered reality. Inside that bubble, the laws of physics bent to human determination. The enemy's energy weapons twisted back on themselves, their own power becoming their undoing. It was a technique born of desperation, developed by Earth's scientists based on data from the first encounters. It would destroy the Hyperion's quantum drive, but it would also give them a chance to win. As the enemy fleet struggled against the quantum distortion, the remaining human and Araxian ships pressed their advantage. Ship after ship fell to their combined assault until finally, the dark fleet broke formation and flowed into quantum space. The siege of Helios was over. The cost had been steep. Nearly half the human fleet was damaged or destroyed, and the Araxian defense grid lay in ruins. But they had won. Together, 2 civilizations had achieved what neither could have done alone. As recovery operations began, Dr. Chen received a new transmission from the Araxian High Command. Her hand shook as she translated it. "Admiral," she said, her voice thick with emotion. They're saying that humanity has earned more than their gratitude. They want to share their technology with us, to help us prepare." "Prepare for what?" Rodriguez asked, though he already suspected the answer. "For what comes next," Chen replied grimly. "Because this wasn't their main fleet, sir. This was just their advance force. The real war, it's only beginning." Breaking point. 3 days after the Battle of Helios, Admiral Rodriguez stood in the ruins of the Araxian High Command Center, watching alien technicians repair their shattered defense systems. The room buzzed with activity as human and Araxian engineers worked side by side, racing against time. Dr. Chen approached, her face drawn with exhaustion. "The Araxian quantum sensors have detected something massive approaching through hyperspace. Their calculations suggest it's at least 3 times larger than the fleet we faced." Rodriguez studied the holographic display showing the enemy's approach vector. "How long?" 48 hours, maximum. They're calling it the Dominion Fleet." Chen hesitated. "Admiral, the Araxians have shared their historical records. This enemy, they've done this before. They appear every few thousand years, destroying civilizations, harvesting technologies, then vanishing back into the dark between galaxies." The Admiral's jaw tightened. "Then it's time we break their cycle. What's the status of the integration project?" "Better than we hoped. The Araxians' quantum technology meshes surprisingly well with our tactical systems. We've already upgraded 6 of our remaining ships with their weaponry. But," she gestured at the busy repair crews, "we're still badly outnumbered." A tall Araxian approached. Senior Commander Vexra, their chief military liaison. The aliens' crystalline skin reflected the emergency lighting as they spoke, their words translated by Chen's improved algorithms. "Your quantum distortion technique," Vexra said, "we believe we can amplify it using our power cores, but the energy requirements would be extreme." Rodriguez understood the unspoken warning. Their previous use of the technique had destroyed the Hyperion's quantum drive. Amplifying it could have even more devastating consequences. "Show me," he ordered. The next day passed in a blur of preparations. The remaining human ships were retrofitted with Araxian quantum cores, while Araxian vessels were modified to incorporate human tactical systems. Every hour brought new reports of the approaching Dominion fleet, each one worse than the last. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly with Araxian scientists, trying to decrypt data recovered from destroyed enemy ships. In the brief moments of rest she allowed herself, she pondered the magnitude of what they faced. Humanity had barely begun its journey to the stars, and now they stood against an enemy that had terrorized galaxies for eons. The breaking point came sooner than anyone expected. Multiple quantum ruptures. The sensor officer's cry cut through the tense atmosphere of the Hyperion's bridge. "They're here." The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare-given form. Hundreds of dark ships, led by a vessel so massive it dwarfed everything else in the system. Their weapons began firing before they had fully materialized, dark energy lancing out toward Helios. "All ships, battle formations," Rodriguez commanded. "Execute Protocol Prometheus." The combined human-Araxian fleet moved as one, their upgraded weapons blazing. Human tactical doctrine, merged with Araxian technology, created devastation on a scale neither species had achieved alone. Enemy ships fell, but more kept coming. "Their flagship is powering up something massive," Chen reported, her voice tight with tension. "Energy readings are off the scale." The massive Dominion vessel's hull split open, revealing what looked like a miniature sun of dark energy. The sight sent shivers through everyone who witnessed it. "They're not trying to conquer Helios," Rodriguez realized with horror. "They're going to destroy it completely." Vexra's voice came through the comms, calm despite the chaos. "The weapon they're charging, it's similar to what destroyed our outer colonies. Once it fires, nothing survives." Rodriguez's mind raced. Their combined fleet was putting up a tremendous fight, but they couldn't stop that weapon in time. Not with conventional tactics. "Dr. Chen," he called out, "the quantum distortion effect. Could we use it to disrupt that energy buildup?" "Maybe, but we'd need to be practically inside their flagship to affect something that powerful. It would be suicide." "Not necessarily." Rodriguez opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Rodriguez. I'm calling for volunteers for a one-way mission. We're going to ram that flagship with every quantum core we've got." The response was immediate. Every human ship in the fleet volunteered. The Araxians, understanding the plan through their linked systems, offered their support as well. "Humanity truly is remarkable," Vexra commented. "We will ensure your sacrifice is not in vain." Rodriguez selected 3 ships for the suicide run, the Hyperion and 2 others. The rest of the fleet would provide covering fire, drawing away as many enemy ships as possible. "Dr. Chen," Rodriguez said quietly, "you should evacuate with the rest of the non-essential crew." Chen shook her head. "With respect, Admiral, I'm staying. Someone needs to maintain the quantum calculations until impact." The next few minutes were chaos as the 3 human ships accelerated toward the Dominion flagship. Enemy fire surrounded them, but the combined fleet's coverage was perfect, clearing a path through the carnage. "Quantum cores at maximum," Chen shouted over the groaning of the Hyperion's stressed hull. "Distortion field forming." The distance closed rapidly. The dark energy weapon was nearly charged, its malevolent light drowning out the stars themselves. "For Earth," Rodriguez said quietly. "For Helios. For every civilization these monsters have destroyed. Hit them with everything we've got." The 3 human ships, their quantum cores overloading, their distortion fields combining into one massive reality warping bubble, slammed into the Dominion flagship's weapon array at relativistic speed. The explosion that followed would be visible across the galaxy for centuries to come. Rising dawn. The light from the explosion faded slowly, like a reluctant sunset. Where the Dominion flagship had been, there was now only a massive quantum distortion, its swirling energies gradually dissipating into space. The remaining ships of the human Araxian fleet hung in formation, their crews frozen in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. Through the static of damaged communication systems, a familiar voice crackled. "This is Dr. Chen. Does anyone copy?" The bridge crew of the Araxian command ship erupted in shocked celebration. Somehow, the Hyperion's bridge section had survived, torn away from the rest of the ship by the force of the explosion. Though heavily damaged, it had been protected by the very quantum distortion field that had destroyed the enemy flagship. "We read you, Doctor," Vexra responded, their crystalline features gleaming with what could only be described as joy. "Admiral Rodriguez." A moment of silence. Then, "Still here. Though I think I left my stomach somewhere in quantum space." As rescue ships moved to retrieve the survivors, the remainder of the Dominion fleet fell into disarray. Without their flagship and its devastating weapon, their coordination crumbled. The dark ships began retreating in small groups, their fearsome reputation shattered by human ingenuity and sacrifice. Hours later, in a hastily converted medical bay on Helios, Dr. Chen sat beside Admiral Rodriguez's recovery pod. The quantum exposure had taken its toll on both of them, but the Araxian medical technology was performing miracles. "The final casualty reports are in," Chen said softly. "We lost 17 ships total, but the evacuation protocols worked. Most of the crews made it out." She paused, checking her tablet. "The Dominion fleet is in full retreat. The Araxian long-range sensors show them jumping out of the galaxy entirely." Rodriguez nodded weakly. "And the quantum cores?" "The explosion created something unprecedented. The Araxian scientists are calling it a quantum barrier. That region of space will be impassable for centuries, maybe longer. If the Dominion tries to return, they'll have to find another way in." "Giving us time to prepare," Rodriguez concluded. He tried to sit up but thought better of it. "What about Earth?" Chen smiled. The quantum communication network is already being established. The Araxians are sharing everything. Medical technology, energy systems, faster-than-light innovations. But more importantly, she showed him her tablet, displaying a message from Earth. We're not alone anymore. 3 other civilizations have reached out after hearing about what happened here. They're calling it the beginning of a new era. The door slid open, admitting Vexera and several other Araxian officials. They moved with formal precision, their crystalline bodies catching the light. Admiral Rodriguez, Vexera began, their translator conveying both respect and warmth. The High Council has reached a decision. Humanity's actions here have proven you are more than ready to join the galactic community. But you have also shown us something we had forgotten. Oh, Rodriguez managed to raise an eyebrow. That sometimes the youngest among us can teach the oldest new ways of thinking. Your tactics, your willingness to sacrifice everything to save others, these are traits we thought lost to antiquity. The Council proposes not just an alliance, but a true partnership. We would learn from each other, grow together, and ensure that threats like the Dominion never again endanger our peoples. Chen translated the formal proposal that followed. Earth would receive technological and scientific knowledge beyond humanity's wildest dreams. In return, they would share their military doctrine, their tactical innovations, and most importantly, their perspective as a young species still full of creativity and determination. There's more, Chen added, her eyes wide as she read the final section. They want to establish a joint defense force, human tactical knowledge combined with Araxian technology, protecting not just our worlds but any civilization that asks for help. Rodriguez smiled, remembering the distress signal that had started it all. Just like they asked for help, and we answered. Exactly, Vexera confirmed. The Dominion believed that younger civilizations should be harvested or destroyed. They never considered that youth might be an advantage. Your people proved them wrong. Admiral, you showed that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in ancient power, but in the willingness to risk everything to help others. As the sun rose over Helios, casting its light through the medical bay windows, Rodriguez looked at the assembled group, human and Araxian, working together as if they'd been allies for centuries instead of weeks. The cost had been high, but they had achieved something unprecedented. They had united 2 civilizations and sent a message to the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. More importantly, they had proven that the stars need not be a place of darkness and fear. With courage, innovation, and cooperation, even the youngest species could stand against ancient evils and emerge victorious. Well then, Rodriguez said, managing to sit up despite his injuries, we have a lot of work to do. The galaxy isn't going to defend itself. The dawn of a new era had begun, and humanity would help lead the way forward into whatever challenges awaited among the stars. As ships from Earth began arriving through quantum space, carrying scientists, diplomats, and new crew members for the fleet, Dr. Chen stood at a viewport watching them approach. The distress signal that had brought them here was now silent, its purpose fulfilled. But she knew that somewhere out in the vast galaxy, other civilizations might need help. And now, thanks to humanity's courage and the alliance they had forged, that help would come. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope that had been kindled here. Humanity had answered a call for help, and in doing so had changed the course of galactic history. It wasn't the first contact anyone had expected, but perhaps it was exactly the kind they had needed.